Hi there, and welcome to the Sorry I Like This podcast. We are back at it again after the holidays. This is our first podcast of 2024. I am joined, well, first I should say I am your host, Caleb, and then I am joined by our other co host here, Ezra. How are you doing today, Ezra?
I am doing great. How was your Christmas slash New Year's slash, I guess, a few weeks after that, Caleb?
Really great. It was incredible like time to relax, to I went on vacation, so I was touring places I've never been to, got to see a lot of places. And I think one of these days I'm actually going to talk about one thing that I did on this vacation.
Yes.
And I think I'm going to save it for next week because the that one thing was pretty cool, and I think it'll lead to a discussion that's a little off topic, but it is interesting to both of us. So I think that'll be a fun little topic to talk about. But the it was really fun. It was a great
Good.
amount of time to just unplug. I mean, for a week, I at least was off the grid. It was nice,
Yeah, no,
to be
that sounds
perfectly
nice.
honest with you. So, and it was during the time there wasn't really much news anyways. So, I mean, I
Mm.
came back and I got filled in very quickly.
Yeah,
um,
no, not
which,
not a whole lot happened while you
yeah.
were on vacation, I would say.
Mm-mm.
Um,
So
yeah.
honestly, it's like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, for me, I didn't like go anywhere on vacation or something, but
Hmm.
um I did have a fun. I ended up having to go into work on Christmas Eve, which was fine. Um, just because it was like my job right now is just like I go in for 3 hours and I clean, so it's like it's not that strenuous to go in on Christmas Eve. Um,
Hmm.
but I went in early on Christmas Eve because the place I clean closes early, and they uh like the who I assumed were like the owners and stuff, they were actually in there watching a football game. And usually nobody's in there when I'm cleaning. Like maybe there's somebody who's staying behind, but
Hmm.
usually there's nobody doing anything in there when I'm there. So that was funny. But otherwise
Oh,
I you know, I didn't go on vacation, but I did uh, tear through a lot of my library. So
yeah,
we'll be
it was pretty impressive. Ezra kind of gave me a little bit of a sneak peek into that, and I was call me impressed on that one. I
yeah.
mean,
I kind of
it was pretty good.
I kind of chewed through some stuff. So yeah, we'll be going into that later. So yeah,
Yeah, I didn't get much done other than I I got one thing done that I'll be talking about later today. As far as gaming goes, I did get caught up on some TV that I was behind on, and so I've been aside from my adventure, I've been working on getting caught up, and I'm in the workings. There's other stuff that I have been working on in terms of gaming that I'm almost done on. So I'm hoping to have at least the next podcast I can talk about one other thing that I'm really excited to talk about.
yeah,
Um, and then so on. So, yeah, I mean, we got a lot to talk about today. As far as news goes, and then we'll be bringing back our segments. Today there will be a trailer watch, um, and uh, then we'll go into our review section. So, three sections today on this podcast, and yeah, I'm
yeah.
excited to really dive in. So, with that being said, are we good to go in? I should check with you, Ezra. Are you ready to
I'm
go?
all set. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that being said, let's go into our first segment here, and that is into the news. And one of the big things that happened today, this is fresh breaking news that has gone on today itself. There was the Xbox Direct that, quite frankly, both of us forgot about.
I mean, in fairness, I knew it
So,
was happening, but I forgot it was today.
yeah, I knew it was happening too. I just forgot it was today as well. I mean, it wasn't up until I go onto Twitter right before the podcast to see if there was any news topics, and the next thing you know, I'm seeing a flood of gaming news topics.
Yeah,
And I'm like, was there something that went on today? And I was like,
yeah,
oh, this is Xbox news. The developer direct that I totally
yeah.
missed.
In fairness, this week in particular has felt like the floodgates being opened a little bit. Because like Monday, I mean, a whole bunch of like smaller games got like either announced or the release dates got
Mhm.
confirmed, or whatever. So I think this week specifically was like a lot of news got
Yeah,
announced one way or another.
it's the start of 2024 as far as gaming news goes, and it's kind of fitting that we're doing the podcast today,
Yeah,
because of it, because it feels like not only are we back, but also the gaming community and the gaming world is back in action
yeah,
since the Game Awards. So, um, but with that said, there was a few things that was announced. I mean, this wasn't the biggest Xbox thing. Now, granted, usually with any Xbox showcase, and there's a reason why we forgot it. There's not much.
not
I mean,
much.
there's stuff, but there's not much. There's a lot of filler in these Xbox showcases that, I mean, and this is not to discredit Xbox because I know they try and usually they do put on a pretty decent show, but a lot of this, usually a lot of the times when it comes to Xbox showcases, it's not so to like our our preferences in gaming
Yeah,
as far as both Ezra and I mean, we both venture out in separate ways in gaming of like what we like and what we don't like. But one thing that is pretty consistent is the even if there is stuff with Xbox, we're not usually so invested because a lot of stuff
yeah.
with Xbox is usually first person, and I think that's a big like thing with the both of us. We aren't really big into first person games. Um,
I
I think I'm
think
assuming that correctly.
yeah. I mean, I would say typically I'm not an FPS or yeah, just like a
Hmm.
first person perspective enjoyer. I will say I think the other thing that Xbox kind of has in its disadvantage is like Game Pass is great, and a lot of like the day one Game Pass stuff is pretty awesome,
Hmm.
but a lot of those games don't get promoted at Xbox shows, right?
Hmm.
Like they get
Yeah,
promoted at like a summer game fest, right? Like Lies of P is a good
exactly.
example of like a game that uh I saw everywhere but Xbox shows and then played on Game Pass. So it's like there's they do release stuff that I want to play. They do like kind of have maybe not exclusive ownership, but um, but they do have a lot of like cool stuff happening. But a lot of it um, is either like multi-platform or it's just they're not advertising it at their like developer directs or something. Um,
Hmm.
so that
I guess the biggest thing that is. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say like that makes and that's why I think for so many people, Hi-Fi Rush was such a surprise because they weren't expecting
Right, and
that.
that's what I was going to lead to. I mean, I think the only real big thing that has actually came from an Xbox showcase was that. shadow drop of something that was meant to be a smaller title, and it was,
Yeah.
I think, it caught the world by storm. Let's just put it that way. I guess
Yeah.
that's the best way to put it. It was huge. I mean, people loved it. I can't say I've played it, but it's been on my radar ever since, and it's always been something that I've been intrigued on, and I am not going to lie when I say that, yeah, I could definitely see why people love this game. Um, and so on one hand, you would think that I would be interested in this direct, but I just was not. So Xbox's track record isn't the greatest when it comes to that. I mean, one of the biggest things that I think of when I think of an Xbox Direct is the Halo Infinite reveal. um,
Which, if you
and
remember,
the infamous exactly. It was not a good reveal. Let's just put it that way.
yeah,
Um,
and
very disappointing. I
and
mean, I
it's
remember being really excited for it. Go ahead.
one. It's a shame because I think Halo Infinite never quite escaped that initial thing, right?
Absolutely.
That initial impression.
Hmm.
Even though I would say, I mean, I played a fair bit of Infinite when it came out. Actually, I never played the campaign, but I played the multiplayer because it was free, and I had a good time with it.
Hmm.
But um, I still think that like the ripples of that screenshot and that first impression never
Hmm.
quite the game was never quite able to shake
Well,
that off.
we didn't really need a screenshot. It was such a bad showcase in general. I don't know
Yeah,
what was going on with Xbox, uh, in with their server. I don't know what they did with their live servers that they chose or what went into it, but like the whole showcase was choppy. Like it was infamously choppy. It wasn't
yeah.
just like us on our end. It was everyone
Well,
and
and
every single outlet, no matter what,
yeah.
had that issue. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the show or the yeah the show had like it's hard to not attach a game to its first trailer, right? Like I remember when
Right.
this was a while ago, but when Pokemon Legends Arceus was first revealed, and
Hmm.
how even though it looked a lot more like cleaned up, and I wouldn't say that game looks great by any stretch, but it looks a lot cleaner than it did at its first reveal. I still think people were sort of taking that impression and putting it onto the game at its release, even though there was a lot of time between.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think like with those technical issues, even though like mentally you kind of know that those were like streaming issues rather than
Hmm.
issues with the
Oh,
game,
absolutely. Yeah.
it's it's hard to like detach that from your first impression of the game.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, and that's the thing. And so I guess the thing is, kind of actually getting into the news now. I mean, we have some news here that I'm excited to talk about, and we have some opinions on it, especially with this first one. But
yeah,
that's kind of just I wanted to give a little bit of a background and context as to why, yeah, we missed this, and then also what our feelings are really towards them.
yeah,
Uh, so it's much more. I'd rather with an Xbox showcase go back on anyways. Like I'll just pick the stuff that I would be interested in and watch it that way. You know
yeah,
what I mean? I don't need to go through the whole showcase and sit through it.
yeah.
Is kind of my thoughts.
It's
So
the
this is kind of the cliff notes. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
What you were gonna say?
I was just gonna say it makes it a little sketchy for me as an Atlas fan because they've been really buddy buddy with
Hmm.
Xbox as of late. Um, so like,
Hmm.
I still don't really want to watch an Xbox Direct, but like, there's always the like itch in the back of my head, like there could be something. Um, Thankfully, we basically know Atlas's release schedule for this year, so it's not that big of a deal. But anyways, um, yeah,
Um. So the basically what I was gonna say was, uh, I mean, with this going into our first topic, it's been something that has been teased on Xbox showcases before, but really it's been like we talk about. This is very similar to what were you just talking about? What game? Um, oh, Liza P. Very
yeah,
similar to Liza P in this regard of just being shown at other showcases, and one of them that's been infamously shown at the Game Awards every year. I wouldn't say every year, but every few years, and ever since Xbox Series X's reveal, we've been hearing about this game, and it's finally coming out, and that is Hellblade 2.
yep,
Um, with that, it's officially gotten a release of May 21st, 2024. So we knew that it would be coming out in 2024. We just didn't know when, and it is soon. So that's really cool to see. As far as finally the wait is over on that game.
yeah,
Uh, I mean, I think you know, with it being Ninja Theory aside, I mean the game is not specifically my cup of tea, but I know that it is definitely a big title for them, and I think that the um it is cool to see that the wait is over in that
yeah,
regard. Um, what do you think, Ezra?
yeah. I guess my take is similar to yours. Like, I'm excited for this game to finally release. Um, I'm also we were talking about this a little bit before the show, but I think it is interesting that it's going to be a $50 digital only release. Um,
Yeah.
and they said it'll be similar in length to the first game, which you were saying is, round about 8 hours. Um,
Hmm.
it'll also be day one Game Pass. So, and honestly,
Yeah. I mean,
if you frequently use an Xbox Series and you purchase more than 3 games a year, I don't know why you're not already subscribed to Game Pass, especially if you want to play online. um
well, I mean, yeah. I mean, even if it's a game that and I'm not like you could do what you want with that, but the way I see it, why would you pay $50 for a game when you could pay $10 for a game that as long as you're not too attached, like if you're really attached to it, it's a different story.
yeah.
Absolutely buy the game, you know what I mean?
Well,
But
and even then, Game Pass does give you discounts, right? I think it gives you like a
mhm,
I think like a
yeah,
base 10% discount or something. So, uh
potentially. I'm not exactly sure.
I don't remember what the
Um,
numbers are on that, but so yeah, like you're even saving, and then like you factor in all of the other games that are on Game Pass. And yeah, it just starts to make more sense. It starts to become a better deal.
mhm,
It does. I do wonder consistently. I wonder, is the Game Pass model sustainable? Um,
yeah.
and I think The answer so far is no. Part of me
Mm.
wonders if that's just part of me wonders if that's just growing pains, I guess. Like
I just think
cuz
that's growing pains in terms of the streaming industry as a whole, to be
yeah,
honest with you.
that's fair. I mean, part of it too is like people still really value physical media in
Hmm.
gaming specifically. I think people value physical media
Yeah,
quite a bit. With
absolutely.
streaming, streaming's been entrenched enough in the way our media consumption works when it comes to movies and TV that I don't think that many people care about physical movie and TV releases anymore. Um, not not to the same like volume that uh, people in games do, at least. So yeah, I mean, I think it is at least in part just growing pains. But you do wonder how long Microsoft will be able to keep this up. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. I think you've touched on it, and really, the fact that this is this game itself, Hellblade 2, is going to be digital only. You're knocking out that physical portion.
yep,
Um, and I don't know about the first one if it was digital only then, but it's seeming like with these with that big title, is this going to set a precedent for future games, at least by Xbox? You know what I'm saying?
it's possible. Yeah,
Of these digital games, and then you know that 8-hour runtime matches the price. I'm shocked, to be honest with you, a little bit, given how long this game has been in development.
yeah,
But I mean, visually, the game looks stunning. It's not my cup of tea, but it's stunning.
uh,
um, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's
It looks great. Um, part of me
again, I
wonders.
would
Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it again. Like, let me say this: like with the $50, it does make me happy to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Compared to something that is 8 hours. But well, was there
Yeah.
anything that else that you were going to say about
Yeah,
that? I know I kind of interrupted.
I was just curious. Like, do you think cuz Hellblade very much seems to follow in the tradition of like your fairly typical like PS3 Naughty Dog era
Hmm.
game, right? Like maybe even going to Last of Us Part 2, right? Like that kind of um maybe not like to
Hmm.
the same scale, but the same kind of core design philosophy. Um, I'm curious on Hellblade 2's release. Do you think it will receive comparisons to those types of games in a negative connotation, or do you think this sort of like the cinematic action story driven thing hasn't yet run its course?
Well, I think it could go both ways, to be honest with you, because I mean, looking at so less ironically, The Last of Us Part 2 remastered I think came out yesterday, right? And
Yeah, it's either yesterday or sometime this week. Yeah.
or today. Yeah, it was something like that. I can't remember if it was yesterday or today. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. Um I will admit I think this like with the TV show and I think part 2 remastered. I don't know about its success of the remaster, if it's really any kind of real difference, if people are loving it or not. Um, I think this one is getting a much more uh, l- positive light as far as people wanting to see this. I know that they're doing some extra stuff, like they're adding some extra levels to it, which is what I would want in a remastered anyway.
Yeah.
So that's but the point being, with the success of the TV show and with this still being people loving loving The Last of Us, I think Hellblade could be, if it delivers on its promises
Yeah.
of a good story at the heart of it and good gameplay. I think it could be shown in the positive light of there's still an interest and still a push for these type of games that do work very well. And you know, I think Naughty Dog always does it right with this regard of like I don't think say what you will. I know a lot of people didn't like The Last of Us 2, but that's not because of I think the gameplay itself. It's more of like the story choices that went into that game,
Well,
as
and
far as reasons why people didn't like it.
I mean,
But
it
um,
is
go
hard
ahead.
to forget, or it is easy to forget. I think that a lot of what drove The Last of Us Part Two's uh, reception was
Hmm.
this kind of um, was the like culture war kind of invading the discourse about the game, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
there was a lot. I mean, there's
Right.
so much. Like Laura Bailey got death threats for portraying a
Mhm.
character who like I don't even think that character is politically anything, right? Like I
Right.
don't think like politics wise, The
Well,
Last of Us is super concerned. Like, of course there's like
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean,
the messaging, you're not going to see that messaging coming out of a certain group, right? Like there's, there's
right.
all sorts of like
The
undertones,
part
but
problem
like I can say the same thing about Xenoblade, right? Like
exactly. What didn't help though was the fact that the entire game got leaked
yeah,
as a story. Like I don't think they like the entire I don't know if it was the script or something.
yeah,
Uh story beats was all spelled out for them a month prior to the game coming
yeah.
out.
And
And
like
I think
and a
that
script
in
frames
I
things
think
very differently, right?
right.
It doesn't tell the whole story.
But I think it ignited those flames
Yeah,
of just like that discourse
yeah,
going through, and it is sad to say see how it went down because I think I haven't played The Last of Us 2 yet. I'm actually really excited for the remastered. I think this is a great opportunity for me to play it.
yeah.
I just the reason why I didn't get The Last of Us 2 was actually Ghost of Tsushima came out like 2 weeks later, and I was like,
Yeah.
this game looks awesome and totally up my alley. Imma play
Yeah.
Ghost of Tsushima.
If
And, at the time,
yeah,
I had to be
that's
money
fair.
conscious on it,
Yeah.
so
I mean for my part,
so
like I'm I'm actually still relatively negative on The Last of Us Part 2. But that's
Hmm.
more of a like knowing what the conditions of the development were
Hmm.
makes me, and then like knowing what came after for Naughty Dog, right? Like there was a really
Yeah.
there's a thing that I reference all the time where what like a dev went on record saying like, yeah, we wish we were making a Jack game, and
Hmm.
and I was just like, that's so funny to me. Like there's something really heartbreaking about that. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think getting back to Hellblade, I do think
Hmm.
that having the hope, I think for me at least, is that if it's an 8-hour game at $50 developed for 5 years, this better be a pretty darn high quality 8 hours, right? Like,
And that's kind of my thing. Yeah, exactly. It's got to promise on. It's got to deliver on its promises, right?
yeah,
And I think that's why I said I could go either way. I think, but the longer story of it is this a killer of this type of genre? No, I don't think so at all.
absolutely not.
What I think will happen is if it does not launch well, if it does not get that great reviews, it's just gonna be forgotten. I'll be honest
Yeah,
with you.
and that would be a
I
shame.
think this won't be to be to be perfectly honest. To get back to your question of whether or not I think it would be compared in the same light, I don't think so.
Okay,
Maybe for a week, but I think you know it's it's tough to call. But the thing is, I think the thing that I go back to a lot is the fact that we kept forgetting that this thing existed,
yeah,
right? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, I
Like,
thought it had
so
already come out
right,
for so
exactly. That's what I'm
long.
saying. Like, I didn't, I thought it already came out like 2 years ago. So
Yeah,
it wasn't up until the Game Awards when I realized that, oh my God, this game's still in development. So really, I think, you know, I think it could be just as easily forgotten.
sure.
And that's kind of my thing on it.
Yeah, and
Um,
it would be a shame if that happens because Ninja Theory is a really talented group of
yeah.
developers. Um, yeah, it would be kind of wild if they got tapped to do a DMC reboot too. That would be kind of funny.
Mhm.
Because they've that hasn't been exactly ruled out, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, while we really like dove into Hellblade 2 there, I think these
yeah,
next few are kind of as far as the Xbox Direct goes, I think we could kind of rapid fire kind of give some thoughts on it. One of the big things that was showcased and to a lot of people's surprise, I would not have put this in my bingo card
no,
for Xbox is Visions of Mana
yeah,
or
yeah. I was
Mana.
surprised to see that
I'm
headline.
not exactly sure how it's pronounced. Well, I guess it's more of a surprise of really this is I think this whole entire game has been a surprise. Let's be honest with you.
Yeah,
Since its
yeah,
initial announcement at the Game Awards, and then because I'm looking at an article right here, and it says it's like the first main entry into this series since close to 16 years,
yeah,
which is
yeah. I mean
wild to think about.
this franchise has definitely been dormant for a while.
Hmm.
There was the Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana like remakes that came
Hmm.
out over the past few years. I don't remember when it was.
Yeah,
Um, so like I think
I'd say it was a few years ago.
yeah, I would say that was definitely Square like testing the water, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, it looks like it's following in that like Dragon Quest 11 tradition of like let's
Hmm.
just take the old formula and make it super HD. Um,
Yeah.
which I can't fault that, but I have to. I don't know. I've got a lot of JRPGs to play this year, so I don't know if I'll be getting to
Yeah.
this one. But
But which makes it even more surprising that it even showed up in an Xbox showcase, right?
yeah,
Because like I don't think anybody would have saw that coming. I just
no, yeah,
would
I
not
agree.
see Square Enix showing that. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I will
there. I mean,
say
they.
I think part of it is with FF7 Rebirth, they will have released
Mhm,
two of their actually no, it'll be three of their biggest exclusives
mhm.
will be console exclusive to PS5. Uh, and that will have been like in the same generation inside of a year. Um,
So you think it was more of like the it's just Square Enix showing that no, we are still working with
yeah,
uh
they're like assuring us they're still
all parties
multi-platform.
involved. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that might have been part of it. I
And I think
obviously
it
I don't
works,
know
to be
that.
honest with
Yeah, yeah, I think and I think Visions of Mana. I think it has a really good shot. I know a lot of people actually really like Trials of Mana. And Secret of Mana is held as like one of those classic, like one of those like foundational RPGs for a lot of people. So
you. Yeah.
I
And it's coming out soon too.
yeah, yeah, it says launching this summer. So we'll see. I I'm guessing this game's been in development for like 3 or 4 years. So I would
Probably.
say probably like July, August, something like that. I mean, they could do June, but I don't know. I feel like they might want to save it for Summer Game Fest, but who knows?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I probably.
yeah, but yeah, I'm keeping my eye on this game for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Me too.
yeah,
I mean, I like like you said, I got a lot of things on my plate as is, but it is definitely interesting to see this come out of a very dormant status and to see it not only kind of go be in an Xbox Direct, but also to be also on the horizon at the same time. I don't think I could have seen that one coming, to be honest with you.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
I
if it
would.
had shown up in a Nintendo Direct, I probably would have saw it coming. But
Yeah. Well, it's not coming to the Switch though, so.
yeah,
Although, I mean,
which
this would be getting into speculation territory, but there's probably a lot of games that
mhm,
that like we know about that will like day one be on the Switch 2 or whatever the next Nintendo console is,
right,
but like they can't say that because the Switch 2 hasn't been announced yet.
exactly.
So yeah, we any I guess the only
That's
thing I would
very
say
true.
if it's getting announced for PS4, don't disregard that it might come out on the Switch too.
Hmm.
Because Visions of Mana is coming out on PS4, so I don't think
It's just
it's.
wild to think that they're still making stuff from the previous generation.
I mean, yeah, the PS4. I think it outsold the PS2, right? Like that. And that console
Ooh, I
lasted.
don't know about that. I'm not sure, to be
Um,
honest with you.
I I feel like I remember sales numbers. PS2 sale numbers. Okay, yeah, yeah, okay, I was wrong. Still, like it sold over 100 million units, and I don't know. I just don't think. I think Sony has a vested interest in pushing the like next gen thing forward, but third parties don't necessarily. Um, so Square is probably looking at Visions of Mana and like, there's probably no functional reason it has to be exclusive. So they were just like, all right,
Mm.
we'll just put it on whatever. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh man, that's
but
crazy. Yeah. Anyways,
as far as what's next up on the list here is oh, hold on, why can I not? Okay.
I mean, neither
Apparently
of
I
us
don't have
really know
access
much
to
about
this link.
these two.
Yeah. I was gonna try to get this. I was gonna try to pull up a link to it, but it's not working. So, our History Untold, got announced, and Ezra, you know just a slight bit more than me on this one.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a turn-based strategy game from
mhm.
Oxide Interactive, who uh, they announced this game last year. So that's
Okay.
pretty much all we have. Um, it looks like it's sort of it's like one of those sort of like, I don't know if I would say alt history, but like sort of historical fiction kind of strategy games in the vein of like a Total War or something like that. Um, so yeah, I mean, people are gonna be into that genre. Hopefully, it's good. Looks a
Mhm.
little substandard to me, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I would. I don't have really much to say about it, but yeah, I mean, uh, yeah, I don't really have much to add on it, but yeah, it looks interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Next thing on Xbox would be, you know, here's the thing about an Xbox showcase. This is what I would be thinking about the whole time: is what if this is it? Right? Um,
Yeah.
and I would feel like every time I would see this come across my screen in these Xbox showcases, I would be like really upset because that's probably all we're going to get. And that would be the Elder Scrolls Online, right?
Yep. Yep.
I would be really hoping for Elder Scrolls 6 news and then see ESO. But yeah, so we got just that today, and just got a new DLC announcement, right? It's not like it's been in previously announced, hasn't it? Or is it just an update?
Um.
Um,
Yeah,
let me
it was
see.
this expansion was announced today. Um,
Yeah,
and it'll launch
which
in June.
oh well, it is close. That's
Yeah.
good. It is cool to see that you know for Elder Scrolls Online fans, they have another update.
I
And
mean,
they're still working on it.
this game has been going for an untold amount of time. I
Yeah,
gotta be honest. I don't remember. I remember when it came out, but I don't remember the year. It's been a really long time.
I want to say it's close to the original Destiny. So
That's
it's
possible. That would make it like
I think that's
2013,
when it
2014.
happened. Yeah, I think that's when it was. I could be wrong, or at least
Yeah.
that's when I first heard of it. To be honest with you, but yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's not what I would want to have seen from Bethesda, but yeah, it's good to see that they're getting more. If you're an ESO fan, I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
Um, But nonetheless, we did get one other thing from Bethesda, and that this was a surprise to me. I knew this was coming with the direct, but I still forgot about it, to be honest with you. And I got really excited when I found out that the trailer dropped, and that was Indiana Jones. And not only that, there was gameplay involved with it too. So we
Yeah,
got a pretty good look into the game itself. I mean,
it's
uh,
it's coming a lot
first,
sooner than
both
I
Ezra
think.
and I watched it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's coming out very soon too.
yeah.
Like you said,
Like,
it's coming out this year.
yeah, I don't think either of us would have clocked it coming in this year. I would have
No,
said 2025 at the earliest. So
but you and I watched it right before the show,
yeah.
and you know the. Oh, I guess I'll ask you because yeah, what was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, uh I'm not an Indiana Jones fan. So like a bunch of the like iconography and maybe like the references and stuff over my head. Like that didn't
Hmm.
that none of that registered for me. I did see the I did see a quality first person adventure game in there. Um,
Hmm.
I think it's a little cheesy that it's pretty obviously Troy Baker who's uh, who's
Hmm.
voicing Indiana Jones. I also think it's one of those things where it's a little bit like, we have Uncharted. Do we really need a a, a game with the
Hmm.
literal Indiana Jones after we have all of those games? But other than that, yeah, like it
Right.
looks super solid, right? Like I have my misgivings about the concept, but the execution looks decent enough, at least.
And that's always the thing with like Indiana Jones games. It's always been shrouded in that cloud, which is so ironic considering that like Indiana Jones is like the face of action and adventure in like film,
Yeah.
but you look at the gaming industry, he's not even close. Like I mean, he's overshadowed by what was Tomb Raider, for the longest time as the most popular and the most successful. Uh so Indiana Jones never really got a spotlight in games even before Uncharted. And then Uncharted came along and then it almost it is even a bigger success than what Tomb Raider was. I mean, I don't think that's
Yeah.
too far off base to say, but I mean, you look at the last Indiana Jones game that came out and that one bombed
Yeah.
pretty bad. I think it came out in the same year as the last Tomb Raider game. Well, let me double check real quick. But it definitely came out in the same year as an Uncharted game. Let me see when that last. Let's
Getting a
see.
Wikipedia. This does not give me a timeline.
Really? Let me see. Let me try searching it
Oh
this way.
wait, is Lego the last one that came out? No, that was a
Well,
PS2 game.
I guess I wasn't counting that one. Those ones. Um.
Because there haven't been a lot of Lego Indiana Jones games.
Mm-mm. Mm. Oh man, it doesn't even. Yeah, this Wikipedia page is just sad.
Yeah.
Let me see if maybe this one. It might have been that one. Oh, that's not it. I'm wanting to say. Yeah, I thought so. It is this one. It is the Staff of Kings. This one came out and was released for the PS2 and the DS and the PlayStation Portable and the Wii. So this was right at the end of the PS2 phase. I thought it was at the end of PS3. It's even further back than I thought it was. It came out, yeah, it came out in 2009, which is the same year Uncharted came out. And then let me see, Uncharted 2 came out, I believe, that year.
Oh,
Let me
okay.
double check.
So like it was pretty
Right, exactly.
steep
In the heart
competition.
of, yeah, in the heart of Indiana uh, Uncharted's success, because that one is for a lot of people. It's not my favorite, but it is a lot of people's favorite. Um, yeah, October 13th, 2009. What? Let's see what? Shoot, I closed out of it. So it was in October 2009. Staff of Kings came out in June. So it was a few months before. Let's see. Tomb Raider. I believe it was called. Was it was the last Tomb Raider before they got rebooted, I believe.
Huh. You know, I don't know how well received that game was. I gotta be honest.
What, the Indiana Jones and Staff of Kings?
No, 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 no. The last Tomb Raider game before
Yeah.
the reboot.
Underworld. Okay, yeah, Underworld. That's what it was. Did it get, wait? What is this one?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I mean the last main Tomb Raider was Underworld, so that came out in 2008. So it was a year prior. I don't think the Tomb Raider Underworld was so big of a success, but it's still big. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's Tomb Raider.
it all right. The last Indiana Jones game came out in a within that year span of a Tomb Raider game and a and Uncharted 2. And let's just put it this way: I know for a fact it made the gaming industry not want to touch Indiana Jones after that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
so the interest in an Indiana Jones game wasn't that really high for a lot of people. I don't think until Bethesda announced this game a few years back. Because it is Bethesda, right? Because they have such they do have a great track record, right?
Yeah.
It's a big studio. Um, and Todd Howard has a big involvement in it. Like, nonetheless, from what I've seen of it, it looks good, which is surprising. I had
Yeah.
pretty low expectations of it. Um, and it it's really delivered in that regard.
Yeah. Game looks
The
super
the
solid.
story itself looks typical Indiana Jones. I mean, I love the Indiana Jones stories. I still haven't seen the newest one. But it looks good. There's a few things that concerns me, like um the I guess the art style that they've really chosen with it looks a little weird. It's a little uncanny, to be
Yeah.
honest, where it looks cartoonish but also realistic at the same time. Uh, so I don't know how I feel about that. As far as it looks like there's some puzzle involvement, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it looks like there's been some puzzle involvement, and uh, adventure wise, it doesn't look like there's much, to be honest. And that's from what the game shows. I think. I mean, there's a little bit, but to be honest with you, I think the thing that concerns me the most is that it is first person. Now, it's not like a bigger deal than I thought it would be when I watched the trailer. When I heard it was first person, I was very like, ooh. But looking at it, it looks good. It looks slow though, and that could be the intention of the trailer. But I mean, the combat looks fine. It's just it has some slow movement to it, especially when you get into like the fisticuffs. And
Yeah.
you know, Indiana Jones is really like if you ever see those movies, it's very fast paced with his fighting. Well, I guess it wouldn't be fast paced. Sometimes it's like you really feel those punches in those movies. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Well,
I
and
guess that's the best way to put it.
I mean this franchise, like one of the most famous scenes in this franchise is guy doing crazy. He's using like a whip or whatever. You do like crazy like moves
Mhm.
with his sword, and then Indy just pulls out his gun and shoots him. Right, like that's one of the most famous scenes in all of Indiana Jones. So you do have to kind of balance the element of like action, you know, fisticuffs with the like fast paced exploration, I guess.
Mhm.
And it does seem like they're leaning into like stealth action rather than just like guns blazing action like in Uncharted, which is probably the right move.
Right.
Uh, but yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I guess this really covers my thoughts on Indiana Jones. I'm excited to see where
Yeah,
it goes. Hopefully they do a little bit of improvement with the art style, but I doubt it that they would change course on that. But it'll be something to get used to. It does, you know. Will I get this day one? Would I get it? Yes. However, I won't be able to, so
yeah,
because I don't got an Xbox. So, you know, it's not enough to go out for me to go out and buy one, if that makes sense. So I guess that's the tier of my feelings towards the game of like, yeah, it looks good. I'd play it if it was day one, but not enough to buy a whole console for. So, it's good to see. It
yeah,
is good to see a big title with Xbox, and it piques my interest a bit. We'll see how it goes at launch because, like I said,
absolutely.
you know, tho- those it doesn't have the greatest track record.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's hard when Xbox's most positive release last year was a shadow drop in April, right? Or
Hmm.
February,
It was
last
like January.
spring. Yeah, like, last winter,
Yeah.
spring, like a year ago. Not a huge game. Great game, but not one of their like big releases they were pushing. So yeah, it's not a healthy Xbox is good for the industry because we don't just want PlayStation and Nintendo to be like the ruling class, right? Like that's not a good idea.
Mhm.
But and so I don't want to be like a doomer about Xbox, but in terms of like wins for Xbox, I can't think of a lot of them that don't also somehow apply to the other consoles. Does that make any
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. No, it does.
I don't know.
Um.
It's and that's what kind of discourage. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. It's what kind of discourages me from
Mhm.
really like tuning into Xbox stuff, unless it's like you know one of those like showcases where you don't know what's gonna be there. Um, it's
Mhm.
to me, it's like it's hard to justify spending that time when like I know a good portion of those games are going to release on other consoles one way or another. Um, so I don't know. I don't know. A decent showing,
Yeah.
I guess. Like I wouldn't say it's a bad lineup, but
Mhm.
I do think Hellblade is a little do or die. I have to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, I don't. I mean, obviously, the whole company doesn't ride on it, but I do think it's a little bit like if you were trying to like prove your reason for existing, I think Hellblade is it.
Mhm.
Especially after the disaster that's been post-launch Starfield. So,
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like Xbox needs a win. I
yeah.
just don't see it anytime soon.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say. It could be with Indiana Jones, to be honest with you, but
Yeah.
I don't.
And
From what
I
I see,
yeah.
I'm not confident, but I think it'll get mixed reviews. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. I
We'll
feel like
see.
a lot of Xbox stuff gets mixed.
Yeah. Well, and then a lot of
Yeah.
Xbox stuff. I think the other thing is that a lot of Xbox stuff, maybe it reviews decently, but when the public gets its hands on it, it's like,
Hmm.
eh. And then everybody kind of forgets about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's a shame.
No, I would agree with that. But I think that covers pretty much everything that we wanted to
Yeah.
cover with Xbox.
Absolutely.
Um, kind of moving into some other news that has been revealed a bit. They are this is going into film actually a little bit. They announced that they're doing an Until Dawn movie.
Yeah.
Um, Let me pull up some details on that. The which is kind of surprising, to be honest with you. That would have been
It
like I don't think that.
feels a decade late.
Yeah, and yeah, this is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. It looks like in uh it's in the works. It's from David Sandberg, and I don't know the other one. Uh, it's from the same people that did Annabelle Creation, the horror movie of Annabelle Creation.
Okay.
Which, to be honest with you, I've seen it, but I can't remember which one that one is. But
Fair.
the writer is from the he did It, Annabelle, and The Nun. So I mean, it's a decent team behind it. I just don't was until like in my opinion, and maybe you can maybe you might have different feelings towards this, but I don't think Until Dawn was that really big of a game
Um,
To be honest with you, I mean it was like reviewed well, but I think
yeah,
to a casual audience, especially to a film audience, I don't think this was something that was like overly wanted. I'm sure the niche. I would categorize Until Dawn in a niche audience, right?
sure. I
So that's what
hmm.
I would feel, but I don't
I
know
think
how you feel about
I
that.
think it's I mean Until Dawn, when that game, or yeah, when that game came out, it was kind of following in that sort of tradition of um how do I put this? Like the same type of game as like a David Cage like um Detroit Become Human, right? Like it was before that game, but I think it was sort of part of that like era of games where that kind of like cinematic choice based role playing in some kind of like genre movie basically is kind of like what the vibe of those games are. um I think that was one of like the first games, especially with the success of a bunch of like the Telltale projects that had come out in that era. I think that game kind of garnered enough attention to kind of remain in the minds of people, because I certainly remember when it came out. Like I remember it as a project, and I never played it. So yeah, I will say it is a little surprising, and I said earlier like it's a decade too late. Like I do think it's weird that it took this long to get an Until Dawn movie if they were going to ever do one. But I'm not surprised by its existence, I guess. Just
Mhm.
I guess the one thing is like that's a game with like a ton of different endings and a ton of and like a bunch of branching paths and stuff like that. Like it's hard to imagine a movie adaptation capturing the spirit of that game, but I don't know. I've also never played it, so who knows?
Yeah, me neither. Uh, yeah, I mean, Until Dawn. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think the film itself could be a really interesting film. Especially seems like it's a decent team. I wouldn't say it's like the overly greatest team of all time, but
Yeah,
as far as looking into the kind of the record of both the writer and the directors, it looks like they have some hits and they don't. And then there's some hits that are some movies that are not so great hits. So I mean, it looks like it's a mixed bag. But yeah, I'm hoping the best for Until Dawn, to be
yeah,
honest. But
yeah. It could be really good.
uh, looking into other movies that are coming in the not too distant future, is we got a little bit more of an update on the cast of Minecraft, the movie, which
Yep.
Ezra, you were telling me you didn't even know existed until now.
Yeah,
Um,
I was kind of unaware that I think I probably heard about it, but I just like it
hmm,
exited my brain. um, but yeah, it's kind of weird knowing that there is a Minecraft movie, a live action Minecraft movie, nonetheless.
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the fact that it's live action kind of makes it very weird to me on how they're going to do it. But uh, I I've heard murmurings about this movie for about a year now. I think
Yeah.
in and out, but I haven't really paid too much attention to it. But apparently, and I'm looking at Collider right now. It looks like they announced their plans for a Minecraft film back in 2014. Now it's gone through many different, you know, scripts and directors and stuff like that. But it is an interesting piece of knowledge there of like, I mean, it makes sense. It's Minecraft is like one of the biggest games of all time. So, you know, but it's just it's interesting. I mean, looking at the cast list of this, it's supposed to come out in April of next year. It's directed by a director that I'm not exactly sure of. And it's got Jason Momoa in it, which I forgot he was in it, and Jack Black. And then
Which
oh,
that's really good news for that movie.
I would agree. And then who was the this one doesn't say it, but who was the actor that is being eyed to? This is what prompted our investigation. Oh yeah, Jennifer Coolidge is joining the cast. So we're getting an interesting cast uh involved with that. Um so I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you think this movie can work, or is this movie not going to work?
Yeah, it's it's a weird choice. I don't know what to say. Um, I will
I think the
say,
live action part is the
yeah,
weird thing for
yeah.
me.
I mean, I don't know. You know my feelings about the Sonic movies. I can't like say out of one side of my mouth like, oh yeah, live action video game movies are all gonna suck, and then like Sonic
Mhm.
2 is the best thing since sliced bread, right? Like
Right.
that's not fair. But Minecraft live action seems a little um shoot. I don't know. It just seems a little weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree about that. I mean, I guess I'm echoing a lot of the same thoughts. I think it being like, how do you make it live action, but yet it's all blocks, right? That's the question I have. But unless
Yeah,
it's like unless it's like a Sonic situation, right?
maybe. I
Where it's
mean,
like they're
hey,
taken out of this world and in the human world or something. I don't know,
yeah. I mean,
but
if Steve is the block man, but he's like in a live
mhm,
action world, that could be funny.
yeah, it could be funny. I would agree with that.
But if
I
it's
guess that's the only way I would see it.
but if it's like because then you get like fish out of water stuff where it's like, oh, I'll just build myself a house here. No, you have to purchase the land. What does purchase mean? There's like stuff that you don't do in
Mhm.
Minecraft that you do in the real world that like that could be fun to explore. But yeah, like other than that, it's hard to imagine um it's hard to imagine a live action Minecraft movie really like sticking the landing. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I echo a lot of feelings towards that. You know, I guess with these movies, it's very much a wait and see until the trailer comes out
Yeah.
of like what a real basement judgment is. But it's like, these are interesting choices of films. Um, as far as for video games, like to be adapted.
Yeah.
Um, but getting back into a little bit of the gaming industry type news is we also got reviews on the Suicide Squad game, in which both Ezra and I really have no desire to play, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Pretty
I would
sad.
agree. I would think that's your feelings towards the game,
Yeah,
but
I've played enough Destiny in my time.
yeah, and that's the thing. This game screams Avengers through and through,
And like,
and not the Avengers movie. I mean the Avengers game.
well, and
um,
with the Avengers game, it's like, you know what I can do in the Avengers game? I can play as Captain America. I can play as Thor.
mhm,
I can play as Iron Man, right? Like,
mhm,
at least all of those characters are like characters I'm super interested in as like from like an IP standpoint. The Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn is like barely on my radar as like I want to play a
mhm,
video game as this character. Right? Like she's kind of there, but then you get like
mhm.
Deadshot, King Shark and Captain Boomerang and I'm like there are
Right.
so many things I want before that like
Well,
and I
like a
mean
Superman game.
yeah like Superman like there's like and you know before I was like okay I'm gonna let Rocksteady cook because they're Rocksteady right like the Arkham trilogy
Mhm,
is one of the most renowned video game trilogies ever for a reason so let them do what they're gonna do. But as time has gone on and we've seen more and more gameplay, it is really hard to justify that sentiment.
mhm. I mean, yeah. Like I said. I mean, looking at the gameplay, just and from what I've heard about it, as far as reviews go, it just screams Avengers to me. I mean,
Yeah.
the it looks like the campaign itself, the story aspect is short, from what I heard, and that it really, and then it goes into that co-op aspect of it, and from what I've heard, there's nothing there, and it shows to me that they want to repeat the same mistakes. To be honest, I mean, we saw this with actually Gotham Knights a little bit of like them wanting to do I think it was Gotham Knights with a loot. They did a loot system that was very similar to Avengers, and
Yeah.
or what's this Suicide Squad itself? I can't remember. Um, I have Gotham Knights, but I haven't played it yet. I can't remember. It's one of those two. But the fact is, I have no desire to play it. I mean, feel like I've seen everything through the trailers, right? And it is Kevin Conroy's last performance, and that's the only thing that intrigues me about it. And it's really sad to say. I mean,
Yeah. It's a little sad that
you know,
this is the game that's his last performance.
right?
Right? Like
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would agree with that. I mean, I think it's also borderline kind of, and I've felt this way too. They've been making like, the whole stick is to they're killing the Justice League, right?
Yeah.
And I know Rocksteady was rumored to be working on a Superman game for a while until it got canceled, and I think made into Suicide Squad. To be honest with you, um, but it's kind of interesting to see that you see Superman in this game and you can't play him.
yeah.
Like I'm not saying that it needs to be for a Suicide Squad game. It's just interesting that this is one of the first things we see from Rocksteady since that development, and it's dangling like it's teasing us. You know what I'm saying? And the I guess I don't know. But I will say one thing of these reviews that I have seen. I have seen them complain about the Flash boss fight being a little bit too fast.
Yeah.
Um, Tough. That's what I say. Tough.
Yeah.
uh, you know, the Flash is going to be fast. Get used to it. I mean, I would be
Yeah.
upset if he wasn't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, and
I'm like, that's
it's
good. That's good to hear, not bad to hear. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, the Flash should be fast, but also if the Flash is going to be fast, I also want to be fast, right?
Hmm.
Like the worst, uh, one of the best boss fights in a Sonic game is Sonic and Shadow just running on an endless hallway because
Hmm.
they're just both going top speed basically. Like that is one of the best set
Right.
pieces. And so it's like yes, the Flash is going to be fast, and yes, none of the Suicide Squad members have speed powers, but it is like okay, we have it is like a weird restriction, right? Because you do want to fight the Flash on his level, because that's kind of what makes him cool. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think the other thing about this game, um, like this is another case of a really talented single player studio being forced to make a looter shooter co-op semi open world RPG that they have no business making because money,
Right.
I guess.
It's almost it's almost like you get I get upset because it almost feels like, man, I thought we were done with this phase of gaming.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
thought we learned from these mistakes.
yeah. Like when
And
Anthem should have been the first and last time this happened.
yeah, exactly. And you know, or even like Avengers itself. Like we've
Yeah,
seen this formula work
yeah,
with seen what happens when we put this in superhero context. It doesn't work.
yeah,
So with that being said, I mean, I don't know. It's just frustrations with
yeah,
WB and
yeah. WB,
just how I feel with DC of late.
yeah. Like I mean, I watched the Flash recently, um, and I was
Hmm.
saying like that's a soulless husk of a movie, and
Yeah,
you know I'm
it is.
I'm hoping that DC is able to do some course corrections. I think part of what's going on with Suicide Squad is it's like this is Rocksteady, and if they cancel this game now, then like what does Rocksteady even exist for, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean
I
that
mean,
whole like all pretty much all of WB is on such a like downturn right now that
right.
I don't know. It's just it's hard to recommend
Well,
anything WB's doing.
yeah, I mean, I watched The Flash I think a couple months ago at this point.
Yeah.
And I remember being so like it wasn't really. I didn't see it in theaters because luckily I was warned to not see it in the theaters.
Eh,
Um, I guess that's the point of that. But I wasn't warned enough to not watch it because I had to. I had to watch it. I had to see the end of the Snyderverse. But God, that movie made me so frustrated.
Yeah.
because it has the blueprint, right? It has the blueprint of you got Michael Keaton, you got we're telling the story of Man of Steel. You know what I'm saying? We got
Yeah.
Supergirl involved. It's literally the Flashpoint storyline, right?
Yeah.
In theory, that shouldn't be an issue. But the
Yeah.
big thing this movie does, and this goes down to its core storytelling, the biggest thing that Flash did, and it drove me nuts, was the fact that they didn't have a core. Okay, so when they go into Barry Allen's origin, right,
Yeah.
of how his passed away, it's I believe it's based off of a soup can. You know what I mean? Being the f-
Yeah,
the
like
crux
yeah,
of this
like
like butterfly effect type thing, and not
yeah.
about the. It's not about the Reverse Flash, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the whole dramatic irony of Flashpoint, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is about Flashpoint's storyline is that he goes back to save his mom from the Reverse Flash,
Yeah.
right?
It's like
And it's more about like
I mean
I
the
have to keep this. Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to add to that, like there's an element where, like, because the Reverse Flash, the core of the Flash and the Reverse Flash's relationship, and why the Flashpoint story works in the first place, is it is a paradoxical chicken and egg story about
Mhm,
whose fault is it that any of this happened, right? Like, because without the Reverse Flash going back and killing Barry's mom, Barry never becomes the Flash. But if
mhm.
Barry never becomes the Flash, then the Reverse Flash doesn't exist, right? Like,
Yeah.
um there are so
There's
many,
there's
like,
two sides to that coin.
yeah, like, it's and so, like, taking that out of Flashpoint, you have to have another hook, and there really isn't.
Right.
Like, double Barry
No.
Allen, like Ezra Miller acting off of himself, is like, that's not enough.
Mhm. No. And that's the thing. It's like, they made a soulless excuse to do the Flashpoint storyline by making it into a prop rather than a character and a story element,
Yeah.
that it just makes the rest of the movie just feel less impactful. And honestly, this movie has no impact.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. None of this, none of the way Flashpoint ends is going to be anywhere relevant since its release. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I haven't seen Aquaman, right? But say if Aquaman directly relates to the Flash movie, right? Um, that's 6 months. After
Yeah.
that, it's nothing. It means nothing,
Yep.
you know. And that's really my feelings with WB's direction with DC. I have not felt much of an interest in DC since then, and it's a shame because I love these DC characters.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like I hate DC or anything. It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm a total Marvel fanboy. It's like Warner Brothers giving me nothing.
Yeah.
They've given me stuff, but it's soulless. It's soulless, and
Yeah.
that's my feelings for Suicide Squad. I feel no soul into it.
And it's just so
Yeah,
sad.
I I I I don't know how long of a rant that was or how far off topic we got with it, but I feel like I've wrapped up my thoughts on it. I don't know. It's going to hurt me to talk anymore about it. But what's your kind of thoughts on it, as Ezra? Is there anything else
I mean,
that you
I
wanted to
guess I
say
would
about
just
Suicide, Squad, or the Flash itself? Oh, are you
hopefully,
there?
yeah, sorry, I was just thinking, hopefully
Hmm.
we get some course correction. But
Yeah,
I'm not exactly holding out that hope, I guess, which is sad.
yeah.
But yeah,
We'll let James Gunn cook, but
yeah,
I,
yeah,
especially in the gaming industry right now, I don't have much faith in DC
yeah,
right now. That
yeah.
is,
And in the game space, WB has fumbled the bag pretty
mhm,
hard as of late. So
which is crazy to think about because like
yeah,
the Arkham games were fantastic. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? And they decided to end the Arkham series, which was great. Do that. I mean, it had a great conclusion in my book. I know a lot of people didn't think that way, but I had a pretty great conclusion to it. But follow up on that.
yeah,
Don't just wait 7 years for a follow up and then just to give us Gotham Knights, which Gotham Knights was another Batman game that wasn't connected to Arkham.
yeah. It was
Like
like
it doesn't have to have Batman in it, but like you could have actually made it connected to Arkham, and I think it would have been a little bit more interesting of a story piece.
yeah,
Like you had the setup, and
yeah,
then you go into Suicide Squad, and it is canon with Arkham. So it's
yeah,
like, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah. What's even the
I
point, right? Like, yeah,
exactly. It's just these two follow ups, and for from a studio that I had a lot of faith in. I'm shocked. I really am shocked.
it's really
Anyways, I
annoying.
think I've yeah, I think I've drone on too much about it, but I think I need to talk about, something a little bit more refreshing. um, well, I think it's time to talk about the Splatoon knockoff from Square Enix, Home Stars.
Foam
It's coming out
stars.
soon.
Yeah, February 6th.
Yep, February
Pretty
6th. That's really close.
pretty close.
Honestly, I didn't think. I guess that I should say that is the other piece of news that we have,
Yeah.
right? Um, the I think it's interesting because we've seen foam stars get pretty big light, but I don't think they've ever revealed any close to what that release date would be, that release timeline would be.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how close it is. I know I think there was a beta announced with the last trailer that happened with the Game Awards,
Uh
but it is
I
getting an official release.
yeah. I mean, it's free to play, so maybe they just didn't see the need for a beta,
Mm,
but
yeah, that's fair enough.
yeah. I mean,
But
I'm not going to write off Foam Stars just yet. It looks
mhm,
I mean, it looks pretty standard fair Fortnite-esque multiplayer game, but I'll give him a shot. I'll give him a shot at it.
mhm.
Um, and maybe it'll be good. Maybe it'll be good, and that's fine. Um, so yeah, I think it is disappointing that they have like some like AI voice stuff in there that kind of discourages me from giving it a shot. But I mean, that's also like kind of gonna be the way things go for a little while now, at least. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't think this lasts a few weeks, to be honest, as far as the public eye
yeah,
goes. Um,
yeah. The
but
only the
you know,
only thing I would maybe say pushing back against that is Splatoon is really big in Japan. So
Yeah.
maybe this game appeals to that audience in a way that it just
Mhm.
won't to the Western world. And if that's the case, I mean, Square Enix might declare that a failure anyways, but I
Right.
don't know. It's not as easy to gauge this kind of thing because it is a Splatoon knockoff, so it really could go either way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. And, you know, the one thing that I'll say on that is I'm sorry, I'm trying to think a little bit. It has potential.
Yeah.
I don't want to write it off as it doesn't have potential. But I kind of see this as something that Square like its won't like its launch success.
Oh
I
yeah.
have a feeling.
Square has a really
Seems like
bad
they're putting a
habit.
lot of effort. Yeah, it seems like they're putting a lot of effort into it, into showcasing it,
Yeah.
and I don't think it needs so much showcase. You know?
Yeah. Well, and there's also the element that like Square Enix really likes to put all of their eggs in one basket, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
And remember, this is the same
The
company that called FF16 underperforming, right? They said it was underperforming. So, you know,
Yeah,
take that for what it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in a little bit of lighter news, now I promise it's a little bit lighter news.
Yeah. This is the
Well, I don't
best
know if it's
news.
lighter, but it's good news.
It's good news.
Yeah,
It
it's
it
good
is
news.
probably the best news of the day, to be honest.
Yeah. With this being, 2024, and this might have been a little bit ago, but it's been news since the last time we've recorded. Uh, and I'll probably butcher his name. Bobby Kotick, or whatever, is head of Activision and Blizzard no more. Let's just put it
Yay.
that way. It is a end of an era, if you want to call it that. But it is good to see that leadership is in the process of its changing. You know, at one hand, I know say what you want about Activision and Blizzard being under Xbox's wing now. I knew from the start of this acquisition that this would be one of the best parts of it.
Yeah. Oh,
I guess let's
absolutely.
just put it that way. Like he needed to go. I haven't really agreed with a lot of the direction Activision and Blizzard has gone in the past few years, on top of all the stuff that has gone on behind the scenes with him.
Yep.
He needed to go years ago.
Yeah,
And
he
I
needed
think
to go in like 2010. Let's be perfectly clear. Like he had outlived
exactly
his usefulness a long time ago.
right. I haven't agreed with a lot of the business decisions. I think this year, especially, see, it's like I feel like the public opinion is like 5 years later than what I feel of
Sure.
the of Activision and Blizzard. Like I could see it coming a mile away, but they won't. Feel like the public opinion, like not necessarily public opinion, but like the just the general audience of these games are just really feeling it now. I think they're really feeling it,
Yeah.
whereas I felt this like 5 years ago. Um, with the and I this is was such the biggest insult, right? The biggest insult they could have done. But I saw this like for me, the biggest insult was like Black Ops 4, right? For Call of Duty, like it was just a
Yeah.
battle royale pay for $60. I was like, what? But the biggest insult to me was they were planning a really big Modern Warfare 2, like they were planning a really big 20 years of Call of Duty celebration, right? And they were
Yeah.
going to make this into a big DLC. They were finally going to skip out on a year. You know what I mean? They were finally going to skip out on a year, and then they were going to skip out a year, and they would replace the year with a just a big DLC, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was a great idea. I was it was probably one of their smartest decisions that they made until the business decision that was made to make, oh, you know what, this DLC, this is a little bit bigger than I expected. Why don't we just make this into a game itself, charge $60 and call it Modern Warfare 3? It's like it's insulting to the anniversary itself, right? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like because then you call it a game and it's an anniversary game. So you're already setting a high bar and it's not nearly as big,
Yeah.
you know? It's
Well, and
it's just
like, why are you selling this as Modern Warfare 3? Right? Why not sell it as.
mhm,
I mean, there's a world where, like, that release, right? Like, what we got as Modern Warfare 3, that could have been, like, a side game. And they could have, like,
mhm,
advertised it as such and made it clear like this is not the real Modern Warfare 3. This is a different game. But
mhm.
ActiBliz, in their wisdom, their short-term wisdom, they just were like,
Yeah.
"No, we got to
They
do
saw
this."
they saw a cash grab
Yep.
and they knew it would work, and it sadly did. But
Yep.
I'll tell you this much, it fractured a lot of the general audience, I would think. Now,
Yeah.
I should mention I don't work at GameStop anymore, and but so I can't really tell you what you know, what
What the actual
the
reception
general
is. Yeah.
audience would be, but I could tell you I know people would be disappointed in it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I
Uh,
hear that.
and I've seen that discourse online. I've seen it's just it's so a change of leadership was time, right? And I'm excited to see what they do. I think one of the biggest things that they need to do, and I know I've only touched on Call of Duty. I mean, you got a lot of stuff, especially with Overwatch too. They need to take time and they need to have something when they do release a game to have a full picture, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be completed, none of the half stuff, and then we'll have it as DLC later. I mean, DLC is great in theory, but you have to have a solid game in order to give DLC. That's my opinion. Um, but I mean, you look at Overwatch 2's success, and I mean, success is the wrong term on that.
Yeah.
um,
Lack thereof.
yeah, I mean, Overwatch 2 was launched with a fraction of what the game was supposed to be, and then we never got the rest of those fractions,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
The they never delivered on any of their promises. I mean, your two biggest games, Call of Duty and Overwatch, as far as like big titles, like
Yeah.
If you're failing at that and making such horrible decision making, it's time for a different change in leadership. I
Yep.
mean, let's put it into football perspective, right? You're not
Yeah.
hitting the playoffs.
Well,
You're not hitting the playoffs. What
and
happens after a few years of not hitting the playoffs? It's time for a new change of leadership.
yep, new
You
coach.
know, new coach. So
Yeah.
I and it's like it just comes to be a point. We need to you need to start looking in between the lines of, yeah, they were successful, but look at in between the lines of how successful have they been since then. So I just
Yeah.
it's my 2 cents. I mean, this isn't even going into any of the behind the scenes
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, like it's
controversies of Activision and Blizzard.
yeah.
It's
Yeah, like if
it's time.
Diablo 4's monetization was the biggest problem Activision Blizzard was having, I would be frustrated,
Hmm.
but that would be pretty typical ActiBliz, right? But
Hmm.
no, no, that's far from the worst of it. So glad to see new leadership for sure. Um, and with some some rumblings. I'm not going to say they're full on rumors, but some rumblings that Phil Spencer might be stepping down at some point.
Hmm.
Well, we can only hope that the next Xbox leader is has a good head on their shoulders. I guess. Um.
And ambition,
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess, would be the way to say
Yep.
it. not not looking at things from a quota type of view. You know, I think that's really what Activision and Blizzard really needs.
Yeah. Agreed. And
So,
yeah, letting the creatives over there do good. So yeah.
but I think that covers our news topics.
Yep.
Little bit of lengthy news this time around. But we had a lot of ground to cover, and I don't, in the future, I don't think we'll be so bloated with some news
Yeah.
unless a showcase happens or something. But the next segment here is is
Trailer.
a segment that yeah, it's trailer watch. We're back in it. Yep. uh you know and what could be this trailer watch, so to speak. um I actually have two, but I'll save one for a different podcast. This one is more of not necessarily a trailer watch on the horizon, but a look ahead,
Okay.
right? It's 2024, it's the beginning of the year. It's time to look into, when can we see Kingdom Hearts 4? Yes, the clown makeup is back on. We are ready to get back into this. I have a few things a few moments of opportunity that I think would really show um, with it. And this is kind of my outlook into the year. Let me pull up
I once
my notes
again
on it.
find myself forced into the role of voice of reason. Uh, um,
Although I don't think you would necessarily disagree, right?
sure. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, you could.
I think there might be.
There.
There's one that I know we agree on, but I think everything else is up for debate.
Yeah. Let me check one thing real quick. I'm gonna look up something because I don't know the day on this one. And I meant to do this before the podcast, but okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So, with that being said, we're gonna go month by month. That's right, month by month.
Month by
Um,
month.
yeah. January. Uh, yeah, it's not happening in January. I'm sorry, it's not happening.
It's not
As
happening.
much as I would love to see it, I'm giving this at a solid 5% chance. You never know. You could wake up on a random Tuesday,
Yeah. It
and
would be
then
a
there's
random
some
Tuesday too.
Kingdom Hearts news. Right. It would only work in January if it was a random Tuesday. So it's not going to happen. All right. I mean, 5 is a little high, but we're still mid month, so anything can happen. Uh, I think we get into a little bit of into February. We could start to see some news. I wouldn't say trailer, but we could hear like from an interview with Nomura the status on KH4.
Yeah.
I think um because he'll be doing interviews for FF7.
Yep.
It I mean that question actually if anything that question is inevitable to come up, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
I
Especially
think
after the game comes
we're
out.
going to exactly. And I think and so this bleeds into March, right? Um and I think we could hear Nomura be like, "Oh, we'll hear something very soon," right?
Yeah.
And this is where our first opportunity comes into play. With Nomura, he could be like, chuckling, like, "I know, but you can't know," type situation. Um, the anniversary is in March, I believe. I think it's at the end of March. It's usually the Kingdom Hearts anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. It's like March 20.
Yeah, it's like late March.
Yeah, it's Kingdom Hearts.
Honestly, I think Kingdom Hearts anniversary is like the first time.
Right, it is the first. Yeah, March 28th, 2002. 2002. So it'll be the 22nd anniversary at that point, and the question is Nomura could gear us up at that point with his interviews of like, oh, it's on the horizon, and
Yeah.
then we get something, right? Um I think that's possible. So March actually I give a 40% chance of a trailer dropping.
Okay.
Um which might seem a little high, might might not though. Um and then we go into April, and I would say if it does happen in April, it would be early April. Um,
Okay.
they could be like, hey, it's 2 years since the Cage 4 release trailer. I mean announcement trailer. Maybe it's time for another one, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's possible. I would give that a 45% chance.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'm clowning. And then we get into the summer phase of uh Kingdom Hearts, right? This is the summer phase of announcements. Uh, I would only see in May Kingdom Hearts getting announced if there was a PlayStation showcase. I could see it being
um
announced there, but it.
so we were talking about
What do you think?
this
Because
a
it's not in
little.
an announcement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, okay, we were talking about this a little earlier in the show,
Hmm.
how Square has released three basically back-to-back major games, all of which were console exclusive to PlayStation, right?
Hmm.
I wonder, does Xbox, especially since Kingdom Hearts is like the IP rights are Disney's, right?
Hmm.
Do
Hmm.
they instead say, "Hey Xbox, we will let you have Kingdom Hearts as part of your showcase"?
Could be. I mean, it would be huge.
Yeah,
Um,
Because remember, Kingdom Hearts 3,
I guess I
like
don't know.
they had that at Xbox's E3,
Yeah,
2018. So
no, I definitely remember that. People didn't see it coming.
yeah,
Um, I think it could be. It doesn't change my feelings towards May. I mean, it could be a PlayStation showcase. It could be an Xbox showcase. Actually, if
yeah,
anything, Xbox does more showcases than May, anyways.
yeah.
It's really PlayStation that will do whenever they want, um, which can be a little frustrating. But
Yeah.
uh, no, we probably see because Xbox, I'd say, is the most consistent out of the consoles to do their showcases within a certain time frame.
Um, I would give
Um,
it to
More so
either
than Nintendo,
Xbox or
I would.
Nintendo. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, June, it's Summer Game Fest season. So it could pop up at Summer Game Fest. I
I'm
mean,
I'm
I would
actually
scoff. I
leaning
would scoff at the
towards
possibility.
Summer Game
Go ahead.
Fest. I'm leaning towards Summer Game
Yeah,
Fest.
I would. I would scoff at the possibility. Like I would probably have it lower as a chance if FF7 Rebirth didn't pop up last year, right? Because that really like started the the marketing tour of that, right?
Yeah.
So I could see something happening very similar to Kingdom Hearts in that way. I think this is the biggest chance out of the year, besides one other spot. But I think this is the biggest chance. This is when, if we don't have any update by Kingdom Hearts at this point in the year, I would be really shocked.
Yeah.
I would be shocked. Um, so I'm giving actually Summer Game Fest season June a 65%.
Okay.
I think that's a. I think that's when we can. It's the highest we can see something
Yeah.
next year. Um, July is still similar carryover of Summer Game Fest season. You know what I mean? So I put it at 60%.
Mhm.
August still very likely with the showcase. Something like that. I would put it at 40%. But the other big. No, no. August, the reason why I have it at 40%, I forgot. Sorry. The reason why I would have it at 40% is August 9th to 11th is D23,
Oh, okay.
right? So
I'm going to
we've
I'm
seen Kingdom Hearts show up there before,
yeah.
not in a big capacity, but it could be.
I'm going to
It
say
has.
I think what happens is Cage Force shows up at Summer Game Fest, and then
Mhm.
at D23 they have like a panel. If
Yeah, I mean,
Cage
it would. Yeah, I would agree with that.
if Cage 4 doesn't show up earlier in the year, I don't think it's showing up at D23.
Mhm. I would agree with that. That's fair. And then so this goes into the next biggest possibility um of it happening is TGS in September. Uh, Square Enix loves TGS. They usually do pretty big um, announcements there. However, I'd say in the past 2 years, they've really haven't brought much to the table for TGS.
Yeah.
Except last year had a really awesome FF7. Oh wait, what?
Wait, no. That was you're thinking of the Game
No,
Awards,
no,
aren't you?
yeah, no. FF7. I mean, they called it a TGS trailer, but
Oh.
FF7 was a state of play trailer the week
Oh
prior.
yeah. Yeah, like they showed it at a state of play or
So
whatever, yeah.
I mean, it is a really awesome trailer, and it showcased everything in that. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's one thing. So maybe 65% is a little high, matching the point of June. So I am actually going to switch this down to 60, just because Square's track record the past 2 years at TGS. But I still think it's high possibility we see something there. And then,
Okay.
we go into the holiday season, anything can happen, but I won't think we'd have any chance of seeing it until December with the Game Awards, but it's
Yeah.
not as high of a chance. I would say 50%. And that's if we don't hear anything, right? Because if we don't hear anything at all next year and it gets to December, it's a 50% chance we hear something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Like, I
I
don't see Kingdom Hearts showing up at the Game Awards unless nothing's been revealed.
Sure. I would agree with that. I think it also rides a little bit on like I do think you're right. Like Nomura's gonna be asked the Kingdom Hearts 4 question multiple times,
Hmm.
and I think I think it also rides a little bit on like Missing Link,
Hmm.
because like they don't want Missing Link to be like overshadowed by KH4, but they also want to use KH4 to bolster Missing Link, right? So
Hmm.
I think, I think there's a really good chance that like Summer Game Fest or like KH Anniversary, something like that, they show up and they're like, "Hey, Missing Link's coming out in a week." Also, or more like, "Hey, here's the KH4 trailer. Also, Missing Link's coming out next week." Something like that. Um, I could be wrong, but yeah, that's kind of my impression. I think KH Anniversary is very much like the first big day for us to maybe see something, or like that time frame. But I think your prediction, or I think your percentage chances are pretty right. Um,
Hmm.
Especially since we really don't have a lot of knowledge about uh what Square's 2024 past summer looks like, um or even into 2025. So yeah,
Yeah,
I would say
and
that's
that'll be the thing. It's like we need to know what's next on Square's plate, you know.
yeah.
And it's not a bad thing because they've released so much recently, but it makes you wonder what they got next.
Yeah,
As
agreed.
a company, you would want to show what's next. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Even if it's a year and a half down the pipeline, you still want to show something.
Yeah.
But who knows what that could be?
Yeah,
You know,
we
could
don't
be
know
another
what.
near game for all we know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But there
I know you wouldn't be
there's
happy. I know you would be happy about that.
yeah. I don't know. I think also part of it too is like we don't know a lot of like what the internal structure of like Square Enix dev teams are. So who knows who's working on what, and like Nomura's hand touches basically every major project. Um
Pretty much, yeah.
so yeah, there is uh in fact, I would say Nier is pretty much the only Square Enix franchise that's safe, right? And the rare like Final Fantasy here and there. but yeah, I would say I think they. I mean, part of it is like the turnaround time on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is honestly a little staggering, right? Like it's honestly
Mhm.
like this game's coming out a lot faster than I would have ever imagined. Um,
Absolutely.
so I'm also kind of thinking like, okay, maybe the same thing's happening with Kingdom Hearts 4, but I'm
Mhm.
not putting too much stock in that. But we'll see. I'm mostly just excited. Like I want to. I've said this a few times. I just want to know this game's still coming out.
Right.
Like I just
Me
want
too.
like I radio silence is my least favorite thing in video games.
Mhm.
And there's there secrets being kept is one thing, but like they announced KH4, I'd rather them share like some kind of yearly development update or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? But we'll see. And I feel confident on this year. I will say, yeah, I feel very confident. I felt confident last year, but I feel confident again. It's a new year, new opportunities. So, that's my feelings to it. And we are not necessarily on a trailer watch. I'd say we're on a trailer advisory. Be on the
Okay.
lookout for the next few months. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But eh, like I said, when we pay close attention to whatever Nomura says in the next month or so,
Yeah.
then we'll know. I
Especially
think.
post 7 Rebirth. Like
Hmm.
I would say like 2 weeks after the game releases, and like we're in like the middle of the crap storm that is everybody's reactions to
Hmm.
that game, because people aren't going to be happy with the way that game ends. um
Hmm.
I mean, just look at the way remake ended.
Yeah.
That is like peak hours for like Nomura to do some serious trolling. So like if
Hmm.
if so I think that's like the key moment. Like if you're gonna try to get like a vibe, because Nomura's been pretty. He's taken a step back, I would say, this year. Like he really hasn't been at the forefront of a lot of Square Enix like marketing. Obviously
Hmm.
he's talked about Rebirth and stuff, but a lot of that has been like alongside his fellow developers in the creative process for Rebirth, because that's not like his project alone. He's doing it with he's doing it with like
Right.
both new blood and a bunch of the original creators of FF7, of which I mean he was part of
Exactly.
that team. And it's crazy to like hear how in the original development cycle uh, of Final Fantasy VII that like he was the voice of reason, when it came to the narrative, and it's like, wait, what? like there's stuff like that that's like, oh, like Nomura might be crazy, um but he's not like that crazy, right? Like there's and like and so I do think Nomura is probably going to step. I mean, I think Nomura and Yoko Taro are the two like biggest names in Square. Like those two and Yoshi P, I guess, are like the three.
Hmm.
The like the trinity of Square, right? Like they're like the biggest names. Yoshi P obviously was last year. This year I think it's either Nomura or Yoko Taro. Yoko Taro, who knows what he's doing? So Nomura,
Hmm.
it's his turn.
Yeah, it is his turn. We shall see what's going to happen. But moving into our final portion of this
Yes.
podcast, we go into our review portion. And like I said, we've been off for a while, and
Yeah.
Ezra has been at work. Let's
I've
just put
been
it that way.
I've
And
been chewing.
yeah, yeah, he's been he's had a full feast and then some.
Yeah.
Uh, so Ezra, what have you played? What has been the big thing that you've been undertaking?
So okay, the first thing I think we should sort of piece this out just so the audience has a chance to
Hmm.
kind of really understand just how monumental of a task this was. Uh, the first game I completed, and I've talked about this, I think a couple of times on the podcast. I completed Xenoblade 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, um,
Hmm.
and I have some thoughts. um, I I think this is one of those games where like if you look at like what people say about it, most people don't get it wrong, right? Like or dislike, people usually are saying things that are true about the game. Um I think one example is the female character designs. It's like if you've seen any number, if you've seen even like the two female protagonists, right? Those two
Hmm.
characters' designs are so like outlandish and um, I don't want to say objectifying, I guess. Like that's a true thing. I'm not going to say that that's not true. Um, I think, but then like on the other side of that, like those two characters are some of the best characters in the Xenoblade franchise, right? Like those
Hmm.
two things are true at once. And so I think that like it really does come down to taste whether or not you will like Xenoblade 2. Um, I think a lot of people who like it tend to like laud it as like one of the greatest JRPGs, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. Um,
Hmm.
I think Xenoblade 2, I think something Xenoblade 2 has over 1 is like its villains. Actually, I think this is something Caleb that I think you would maybe want to
Hmm.
um, you would you would be interested to know is Nomura actually designed those characters. Like he
Oh yeah,
designed,
I did hear about that.
yeah, he designed the two main villains and like their sort of uh,
Hmm.
entourage, I guess. And those two characters are legitimately like my favorite villains I think in the series. And so like and I would say that I Nomura didn't write the script, but I think there is like a little bit of that sort of like existent like Nomurian existentialism in those two characters. Without going into spoilers, like Jin and Malos
Mhm.
contemplate things that a lot of Nomura's original characters contemplate. So,
Gotcha.
and you know, and so like I think there was like a part of my like Kingdom Hearts scratch itch that was being scratched with that.
Mhm.
Um, and I would maintain that a lot of Xenoblade feels very much like the story Nomura would tell if he didn't have if he wasn't also like balancing the Disney elements. Um,
Mhm.
like I don't know if that's true, but that very much feels like what the vibe is with Xenoblade. Um,
Hmm.
so like so that the game has like some great villains. I would say the combat
Mhm.
is like leagues ahead of Xenoblade One's combat. Like it's not even close. Um,
That's a good thing.
yeah, like it's one of those things where it's almost like it almost makes Xenoblade One feel like required reading next to two, actually, because two,
Mhm.
because one I'm like I'd rather not fight right now. I'd rather just watch the next cutscene and beat the game. Whereas two has a really nice sense of flow. Um,
Mhm.
and like there's and I think on the other hand though I think something that hampers two is what I like to call menu hell, where like some
Mhm.
games menuing is like tinkering around in the menus is fun. Like actually I think Xenoblade 3, just jumping
Mhm.
ahead a little bit, Xenoblade 3 actually does the whole like you're gonna sit in menus thing really well because it feels interactive. The menus are snappy. um it's all very readable. It's not very like obtuse. Xenoblade 2 has like has unresponsive menus. The menus control weird. They also look
Mhm.
they also don't read very well. You look at a Xenoblade 2 affinity chart and it's like what am I looking at? Like it is you have to like really turn your brain on. Um
Mhm.
and and then like there's stuff like if you unlock a skill you have to go into that character's menu in order for the skill to activate. So
Mhm.
like if I have like one enemy I have to kill to unlock a skill, I have to exit the menu, go kill that enemy, go back into the menu, go to the character menu, and then the skill is activated, right? Like Um, and then there's like all of the other menuing that you have to do, and it just starts to feel like you're spending a good like 20% of your time playing the game just flipping through menus. Um, and what makes it worse is the field skill system because you have like the blades, which are sort of like if it's like you have like your three party members and then you have like their weapons are also characters, I guess is how it kind of works. So you have like the main like four blades basically, but then a bunch of like the optional stuff is are also like move sets. So um yeah, like um so like you just end up spending so much time in menus, and I was like, can I please for the love of everything just go back to fighting things? um
Right.
to the point where it's like where I got to the point because the field skills, like they make you like equip whatever blade has that skill onto your party member, and it's like I'm just getting so sick of like swapping party members around and like you're just making sure that like everybody's equipped with the right thing or whatever, and it's just like it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna run this damage setup, so um, and like I was like, this is gonna be my optimal setup, and I'm just gonna beat the game with this, and I did side content. I spent a lot. I spent a good amount of time with the game. I think I beat it in like 80 hours or so. I don't know what my exact time is. But yeah, like those. What's a shame is that so
Did you say
much
8 hours?
80.
Oh, 80. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
No,
I was like,
not
that doesn't make any
no.
sense.
That makes. I think I played
But
8 hours of
80,
that
80
game
makes
while I
more
was
sense.
staying with you. um, uh, the because like and I think like what kind of sucks is like the rest of the game is so good, but those small elements really hamper my desire to like go back to it, where uh where that isn't an issue for Xenoblade 3 for me. And yeah, I think and there yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff that like I kind of want to do in Xenoblade 2. Like there's a bunch of like post game and game stuff that I haven't done in that game
Mhm.
that I would be like down to go back to if those issues were ironed out, but they're they did iron them out and they did that in 3. So it's kind of hard to like
Gotcha.
it's hard to be like, well,
Like an actual criticism when you know that they fixed it in the future.
well, and it's like that makes it hard to like go back to this game. It's a little bit like Kingdom Hearts 1 in that
Yeah.
way, right? Like it's like it's
Hmm.
not that Kingdom Hearts 1 is bad. It's just that like there are
Right.
some rough patches in that game that they smoothed over in future entries. Um, so uh, Xenoblade 2 is a complicated game for a lot of people. I think the last like I think uh the last the back half of that game is, from a narrative
Hmm.
perspective at least, basically flawless, actually.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a single issue with the back half of the game. I think the front half, there's a lot that like early on could turn somebody off about it, and I wouldn't blame them. Um, because the game also doesn't do a good job tutorializing the
Fair enough.
player,
Hmm.
right? Like the Xenoblade 2 is infamous for how poorly it does tutorials. To the point where like if somebody told me like, "Hey, I'm gonna try Xenoblade 2," I'd be like, "Okay, here's this YouTube channel that you should watch instead of learning from the game how to play it."
Hmm.
So there's that.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and it's a shame because there's so much about it that's so great. Um,
Hmm.
and I think also Xenoblade 2 is it is kind of like reframed in a way by Xenoblade 3's existence, because now it's like I mean, people can start with 3, go back to 1 and 2, and have a greater appreciation for 3. Whereas with
Mhm.
2, there's a lot of its like lore and stuff that if you don't already know that it's connected to 1, you will like all the connections to 1 will like completely go over your head. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I guess the only other thing to say about base 2 is I'm playing all of the Xenoblade games with Japanese audio, which is regular for me. I usually play games English dubbed.
Mhm.
And that's specifically because I find the overly British voice acting incredibly off-putting. Uh, I
I
think
could get it. I could see that.
it's just very strange to me. And it's weird because Jenna Coleman, who played a companion in Doctor Who, is one of the characters in Xenoblade 1. So like I should be like super into that, but no, I just find the Japanese voice acting completely off-putting. I would much rather um at that point I'm like, okay, I just need to play in Japanese and it'll be fine. So I'm typically not a, you know, sub overdub person, but in this one instance,
Mhm.
um, uh,
I could get
so
that though.
yeah, so that's part 1 of the meal. Uh, I would say that's kind of the main course. Um,
Yeah.
the side dish is Xenoblade 2's DLC campaign, Torna the Golden Country, which is one of the most well received DLCs in history, I think.
Mhm.
So much so that I think it really rehabilitated base Xenoblade 2 for a lot of people. Um, the because it tells a really good standalone story, so it was like
Mhm.
the last thing that was ever associated with 2. So I think there's an element where it's like, okay, 2 has its issues, excuse me, but it gave us so much, right? It gave us Torna, so can't be too mad at it. um
Mhm.
Torna is, I think I beat it in around 20 hours, so uh, pretty.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, not at all. Not a horrible.
Big for a DLC.
Yeah, yeah,
From an outside perspective, you might be like, "Wow, that's almost a full game." I mean, it is
yeah,
a full game in some
yeah,
cases, but
yeah. Well, so much so.
for in a Xenoblade context, it's much
Yeah,
different.
I mean,
Of like, yeah, that's not bad.
yeah. Well, in Torna is you can actually play it standalone if you want to. It's the only one of the extra campaigns that were added as DLC, or for like
Mhm.
for 1 it was for the definitive edition. Um, they they ended up they actually had like a whole like limited physical release for it too, which is I think says
Oh,
something about
interesting. I
how
didn't
well
know about that.
received it was. Um,
Mhm.
and it is I think like if I weren't worried about somebody going back to 1 and not enjoying it as much because the combat is so unrefined comparatively, I would actually tell a lot of people to start with Torna, because Torna, for all of its flaws, and it has one pretty glaring flaw. It is, I think, a really great starting point. Um, the narrative's super tight, super solid. They changed the combat enough to make it feel fresh without overloading somebody who was interested, who was like invested in the base combat of 2. Um, the combat's also a lot more active in Torna, which is cool because in 2 it kind of not in necessarily a horrible way, but sometimes it can become a spam fest, and therefore becomes passive. Um, so Torna's combat changes really do a lot for the game, I think. Um, I would say the biggest flaw that Torna has is that
Hmm.
at specific moments they gate story progress behind how many side quests you've done. And you have to do a lot of side
Oh, that's
quests.
pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um and so like that 20-hour mark comes from that specific gate. Now, that said, it would be weird if they made uh I guess basically one new area and one redone area from the base game is kind of how the DLC plays out. It'd be kind of weird if they made all that and didn't make you absorb most of it. Um, so on one hand, I can kind of understand that, but Xenoblade side quest design isn't groundbreaking by any stretch, so it does feel like a it does and like it really kills the urgency of the story. That's the biggest problem, I
Mm.
think. Um,
No, I bet. No, it makes a lot of sense.
it's not a
The
deal. Go ahead.
right. It's not enough to take away from it, but it's also I can't even find the right word for it. It's like um
It's a hitch for sure,
yeah.
right? Like it's like it's something that like it's an asterisk, right? Like if you don't like it when games do
Mhm.
this, you won't like it when Torna does it, right? Like it's
Right.
yeah, I think, and again, Torna's great, and I would say like if you're trepidatious about Xenoblade, start with Torna, because like it gives you enough of like what's great about Xenoblade without keying you into too much of like the lore stuff, so it can still be like fresh and interesting to you going into like 1 and 2 and 3. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to say about Torna. Torna's pretty great. Um, and again, I think it reframes the conversation around 2, because without 2, you don't get Torna. And I would say most people think
Mhm.
Torna's a good, like, well worth having. Um, so yeah, moving on to dessert. So when I started playing through the Xenoblade franchise this year, or this past year, I guess,
Mhm.
I said I'm gonna do release order. I've already played 3, but I'm gonna do release order. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, Torna, 3. Um, now
Mhm.
technically, Future Connected, which was added into the definitive edition, was a 2020 release. So
Mhm.
like, it would technically go 1, base 2, Torna, Future Connected,
Mhm.
3, Future Redeemed. But I wasn't gonna bother with that. I was just gonna play through Future Connected.
Right. No, it makes
which
sense.
has some lore implications to the rest of the series, but not enough to really like make it required reading. And I wouldn't say
Hmm.
it's like anyways. Um, but after playing uh, after playing 1 and 2 and Torna, I just couldn't help myself. I had to get into Future Redeemed. Um, in part because I knew that Shulk and Rex were in Future Redeemed, and that's exactly as much
Gotcha.
as I'm going to say about Future Redeemed, because anything more than that is giving away the game, at
Gotcha.
least in terms of story content. Um,
Hmm.
Future Redeemed is um, there's like so much to say about Future Redeemed because it's the perfect like cap off to Xenoblade 3, which
Hmm.
is already as close to a perfect RPG as you could possibly get, in my opinion. Um, like
Hmm.
the
Which is really high
narrative,
praise, by the way.
yeah, that's really high praise coming from me. Like Xenoblade 3 is like having like sat on it and like gone back to it, and I've been doing a new game plus playthrough after playing Future Redeemed. I can
Hmm.
say pretty safely it is competing with Near Automata for me. Like, and
Wow.
that's I didn't think I would ever say that. But I think so. Like, it's an expansion to a game that's already really high up there for me, and uh, and it tells its own story, and but it's like it's also connected with both 3 and the other two, right? Um, it's
Hmm.
so yeah, like there's that element of it. The base again. I think I was saying this earlier. Xenoblade 3 already has like a great combat system and a great gameplay loop, so there wasn't a lot to improve on. Uh, but I think what we got is basically the perfect Xenoblade combat system without any radical changes, basically. Um, they would have to, I think they would have to do away with auto attacks and cooldowns for them to make any meaningful changes to Xenoblade at this point, and have it still be good. Um, because I think that MMO thing is beginning to run its course for that franchise a little bit. Um,
Hmm.
just like I don't know how long it can keep it up. Um, but like Future Redeemed version of that is flawless. Basically, I don't have any core issues with it. Um, the uh, they took the side quest thing that Torna introduced and instead tied it to character progression. So, um, and also made it so that like everything you do factors into it, like whether it be killing enemies or collecting items or talking to people, whatever it is, it will go towards that community system, which then allows the characters to be upgraded in combat. Uh, which then, I mean, some of the um, I mean, the amount of damage you can do in one combo in Xenoblade 3 is a little staggering to the point where you're like, why did they let you do this? um, uh, and that's like the fun of it for me.
Hmm.
So there's that. Like I think it has a lot of um it has a lot of what made Xenoblade 1 great to explore, because Xenoblade
Hmm.
1 to me still holds the title of like most interesting world to explore in almost any video game, I think, at least conceptually,
Hmm.
because like the idea of like society growing on top, or yeah, growing like in and around two massive titans, and then like the whole game basically takes you across both of them. That's like super interesting, and the way they pull it off is super cool. um 2 and 3 don't have that same uh like pizzazz, right? Like that same like style.
Hmm.
I would say 3 at least like functionally is more fun to explore, because there's I mean, you can also see some of Monolith's progression as they like took what they learned from helping on Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom into their Xenoblade games. Um, you can kind of tell like they learned a few lessons along the way and they implemented them. Um, so yeah, they're like, so Future Redeemed has Xenoblade 1 DNA in a lot of the way that its world is designed. I wouldn't say it's as tight or as conceptually interesting, especially because it does take place in the same world as Xenoblade 3. So, like, it's harder to just make that happen. But it uses enough of that, like, DNA to be really cool. And to
Hmm.
still be, like, a tribute to that. Um, and then lastly, I think Caleb, this is something you'll get. Um,
Hmm.
there is, and this is the totally spoiler free, but if you dig into the history of Tetsuya Takahashi, who's the creator of Xenoblade, um, worked at Square Enix, left and created Monolith Soft. If you look at
Hmm.
his gamography and you look at all the stuff
Hmm.
he's written and all the games he's developed, and then you look at uh, uh, two scenes in Future Redeemed, uh, you start to see the same thing that Tetsuya Nomura did in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind Secret Episode. And
Gotcha.
I mean that with complete sincerity. Like it's not
Mm.
as like
Mind blowing.
no, I would say for Xeno fans, it was that mind blowing. Um, I would say
Mm.
it's not as direct, like shot for shot, as the Verum Rex thing is, right? Because like the KH3 Remind Secret Episode, that is like literally a shot for shot remake of the Versus 13
Mm.
trailer. Um,
Yeah.
it's not quite that far, but it's
Hmm.
enough. And Uh,
Hmm.
like it's hard to say without like completely spoiling it, so I won't go into detail. But like it's like the same kind of thing, and if they're cooking what people are kind of hoping they're cooking, that's really exciting for Xeno fans.
Right.
In a similar way, I think, to the idea of Nomura kind of reclaiming his original vision for Versus 13 and inserting it into Kingdom Hearts. So yeah, Future Redeemed,
Hmm.
like I I I don't think I would put it over Tears of the Kingdom. Um just cuz like it's an addition uh to a game, and so like the stuff that it does good is kind of because of the base game in some way. Um but yeah, I would definitely like amend my game of the year list and put Future Redeemed on there
Hmm.
for sure. Um, I think I might
Wow.
have beat it before the new year. I could be wrong about that, but it was close at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did. I loved uh, Future Redeemed. I'll talk about Base 3 at some point. Um,
Hmm.
maybe when I've finished my New Game Plus playthrough. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I Future Redeemed fantastic. Could not be happier. Um, yeah,
Okay. Well, high praise, that's for sure. It's definitely got me intrigued there.
yeah,
Um, and like I've said this before in the last podcast. I mean, it's something. This is a series that's been on my radar for a while. It's going to be. It's going to. I have to clear time out for it. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
This
I don't have
is
to. I have to have no games outside of it.
yeah,
I need to know that there's not any upcoming releases for me
yeah.
in order to actually make this undertaking because I could see myself really getting trapped in those
Oh
games.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I would say like to me, if I'm looking ahead at the rest of this year, I'm like
hmm
right after FF7 Rebirth would be the only time I
hmm
could predict you maybe being able to finish Xenoblade 1.
yeah,
Like that's the like level to which um I am like I do genuinely think, at least from a narrative perspective, you would really enjoy
hmm
Xenoblade. I think there's so much in there that's like uh that like thematically you're interested in, but it is a commitment. So it's like and in some, at least for me with franchises, it's like you're in for one, you're in for it all. Like I'm here to like
hmm
have the mysteries play themselves out kind of thing. Um but yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So I think that goes into our next topic.
Yeah.
We so Ezra went through Xenoblade, and you know I did go on an adventure. I went on vacation and stuff, but there was a couple shadow drops of DLCs that you know happened, and right before I left, and I promised that I would get them done, and I am in the process of getting them done. But I did get one done. It was the first one that I chose, and I had to get it. I had to play it. before I really dove into the other one, which I knew would be a lot more lengthy. And it's proven to be a lot more lengthy. Uh, so I wanted to get this one out of the way. Uh, One of my personal favorite games of last year was Final Fantasy 16, and they came out with the DLC Echoes of the Fallen. It was a shadow drop. It was paid DLC, and I gotta say,
Uh-oh.
I was meh.
Oh.
I and it's sad to say, like it hurts to say, but it's true. Like I think the biggest problem is that it places itself right before the climactic ending of the game. It does some interesting stuff with the lore. I think that's the biggest praise I can give it. Other than it has a really cool final boss fight. That final boss fight is hard,
Okay.
and it's probably the hardest boss fight in the game. To be honest with you, um, I had a struggle with it.
Huh.
Um, but it's adventure element, I guess would have to put it. It's like
Yeah.
it's its gameplay, so to speak, is very repetitive. It drones
Okay.
on.
Yeah.
And it's not much,
Well, and
and the
if you're
problem
saying
is
that about a three
this
hour DLC,
yeah. It's just I don't want to go into too much of the details, but it's like it just feels like you're climbing up the the place
yeah.
for so long, and then you finally get there, and it's like, okay, finally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not there's they also add in like two different or sorry, three different side characters into this one that's
Mm-hmm.
no relevance to the story outside of it that are just really kind of annoying, to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
they're just kind of a nuisance the whole way, and it's kind of like, you know, was it fun to be back in this world? Yes. Was it fun to have a new exploration? Yes. Would I recommend it? Probably not, because FF16 is so complete as is. This just feels like an added chap. It feels like a deleted scene.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't add much to the narrative, to the context of things.
Yeah. That's
I
disappointing.
is this a yeah, I much as much as I'd love to give it high praise, I do think its next DLC will be much better. To be honest with you, it sounds like it's going to be much better.
Yeah, it
Not
sounds
only
like a more
from it
substantial
being
addition for sure.
Leviathan, exactly, and this is kind of like the start of that DLC run that they're doing. But I guess I would compare it to a lot of FF's Final Fantasy 15's episode Gladius.
Oh, okay.
The
D-
first DLC with that, where it's just kind of like, eh, interesting stuff, but not much to it. You know what I mean?
yeah. Also, like the weakest of the four that got released.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I still I don't doubt that the next one's going to be good. I think it will be good. I just don't think that this is a required reading. Let's just put it that way. Um, but if you want a really cool boss fight at the end, it's pretty cool, but
All right.
and hard. But that's kind of just my thoughts on Echoes of the Fallen.
All right.
I don't want
Not
to say,
definitely
yeah,
the like substandard DLC format, right? Like
Yep.
Xenoblade, you get a whole new game with your expansion pass. With with Final Fantasy, you get
Exactly.
3 hours. You know, and
Yep.
honestly, like for the price, I don't turn my nose up at that. It's more like I guess like there are
Yeah.
enough things that hold FF16 back for me that like I want DLC to address those problems. So to hear
Mhm.
that they don't really get addressed and it's just like 3 more hours of the same thing that was already a bit too long for
Mhm.
me is like
Yeah.
okay, that's a hard sell. Uh,
Yeah.
which stinks. That does it does
And
stink.
I I don't know the reviews on the DLC, but I can't imagine it's too high praise.
I I don't even know if it
But
got that many reviews to be honest.
yeah, it's kind of like, did we really need this DLC type of thing? And then
Yeah.
it's kind of like, as you're going through, it's like, well, if this was here, why wasn't this in the base game? And then you find out why it's not in the base game, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Um, so I guess that's kind of my feelings towards it. But with that being said, there's one last thing, one last topic that we have.
Yes.
Uh, Ezra, tackled one other game,
Other
and
game.
it's been a game that technically we started together. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah.
you started it with me, and I I mean, granted, I've already played this portion of it, so I was going through the motions. But
Yeah.
really, it was your beginning of this journey.
Yeah. I
What did you think of
joked.
Mario Wonder?
Yeah, I I joked um when we were playing it like, "Oh shoot, I should have logged in. I should have played it on my Switch. So when I got it, I would just have that save." Um
Right.
but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I it's hard cuz I think a lot of people really held Mario Wonder in super high regard,
Hmm.
and I think there's a lot of validity to that because I think Mario Wonder does a lot of really cool things. Um, Especially like the way it brings 2D Mario into the modern age is really cool because it doesn't
Hmm.
like step on anything with 2D Mario, but the stuff that
Hmm.
it adds feels like it fits right in. Um, like for instance, I think the flower guy is hilarious. I think basically every time he's on screen, he's either not like bothering me or
Hmm.
one of the funniest parts of the whole game. Right, like, he makes me laugh consistently.
Hmm.
Um, so like and like that's like perfect for Mario because I don't need Mario to talk. I don't need there to be like
Right.
a heavy emphasis on voice acting, but having like some
Hmm.
fun like color commentary throughout the stage, that's a great addition.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that like a lot of people really hold this game in high regard, and I can
Hmm.
see why. I think for me, I think the Wonder Seed element ran its course a little bit. Um,
Okay. I can kind of see where you're coming from with that.
like
Being halfway in, I'm halfway through the game, so.
yeah, like they do a lot of really cool things, and some of like the stuff they do is like mind-blowingly cool, but
Mm,
at the same time, it does start to feel uh it's like I think a lot of people praised it for like being basically like a melting pot of like so many different ideas, right? Like it's basically like idea
hmm.
salad, and so you never know
Yeah.
what you're gonna get. Um, and I can see where people are coming from on that. For me, it's like I do know what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get something that I'm not prepared for, right? Like I'm gonna like become a Goomba, right, for this one level, or something like that, where it's like, yes, it is a new idea, but it's the same like format within which that idea is taking place. So it's hard for me to, because the core fundamentals of what makes Mario games fun is there, but the I guess it did start to feel like I was going through the motions. Um,
Hmm.
and I say that I still really liked the game. I beat I would say I got most of the Wonder Seeds throughout the game. Some of the stages I got, or some of the worlds I got all of them. Um, so
Nice.
I'm really like I really enjoyed my time with it. I love that like you
Hmm.
could just pick out of like what 12 characters or something like that. Like there's absurd amount of character variety. At least in just
Hmm.
like who you're playing as. I think that's really fun. Um,
Yeah.
I will say Elephant. Everybody started to wear on me a little bit.
Yeah.
I it's cute the first few times, but then it just
Hmm.
like it becomes a weird aesthetic for me.
Yeah. It's really those. A lot of those stages are really reliant on that,
Yeah,
and it's kind of like you have some other cool looking ones that I don't think get used a lot.
yeah,
You know what I mean as far as
yeah,
power ups go.
yeah. Especially, I think Bubble Mario should have been used a lot more
Hmm.
than it ended up being used.
I agree.
But yeah, I
That's
think,
what exactly what I was actually thinking about.
yeah, yeah. I think there's, yeah. So I think there's like a lot of good stuff about Mario Wonder, um, and I can see why so many people love it. And I think with a little bit of refining, I think this team has something really special on their hands.
Hmm.
At the same time,
Yeah.
it it might have just been a little bit too long. That might have been the only problem.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just like maybe there wasn't quite enough variety
Fair
to
enough.
support 6 worlds. Maybe it just needed to be 5, and that's okay because you know what,
Yeah.
we got more levels out of it. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't know. Have you played more since the last time I talked to you about it?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Not really. I just if we didn't usually when I play the game, I play it with my fiance, so
Yeah.
we haven't like we haven't been playing so much of it of late just because of the travels and stuff. So,
Yeah.
we'll probably get back into it soon. I know we played actually I take that back. We played a little bit more. We played a few more stages after the last time we
Okay.
played, but
Yeah.
um but yeah, we're enjoying it. It's one of those games just like the New Super Mario Bros, the one that came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, not a few years ago. It's been a while, but we 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 kind of with those games we kind of take our own pace with them. We'll play them and we'll play them, but it's like we'll we take a little bit of time with it. So it's not well, one hand it is a short game, but it's also, you know,
Yeah.
we'll our pacing is much different than what a normal uh playthrough would be because we like to go through and get everything usually. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
and yeah, I'm definitely like I go fast, right? Like I
Yeah.
I don't take my time with games. I mean, sometimes I do, but like I don't um like when I sit down to play a game, I'm like, all right, I'm putting in X amount of time today. Um, Whereas like for you, it might be like, oh, let's play 2 or 3
Mhm.
stages and then see where we're at. Where I'm like,
Right.
no, 3 hours. uh, um, yeah, I guess I
That said,
should.
though, I really
Oh, go
do
ahead.
like the game. Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah, it's a great
Well, I
game.
was just gonna say, yeah, I liked it. I really liked it. And I like the creativity on that. And it's one of those type of games that you could take your own type of pace with it. You could be fast, you could be slow.
Yeah,
It's really up to you. And you know, I think it's a really great addition to the Mario franchise. It's something different and in a good way while also honoring previous installments. You know, it's kind of just my kind of like final bow on it on as far as what I my feelings are.
yeah,
Um what about you? What's your kind of final thoughts on
yeah. I
it
think
if
I would
that makes
echo a lot
sense?
of that. I think the other thing I would say is I'm glad that Nintendo hasn't abandoned 2D Mario.
Mm,
Cuz I think I mean a lot of the people who worked on Mario Wonder could have just worked on the next 3D Mario, right? Like that is
yeah.
certainly something that could have happened. So yeah, I am I'm satisfied with that game. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. Um, yeah. Um, Before we actually go on, do your thing.
Well, I I think that at, well, everything seems to be wrapped up, I think.
Okay, I have one thing
What
I
you
want to
got in
talk
mind?
about real fast.
Okay.
I just want to I want to say uh, I started a Baldur's Gate 3 campaign with my mom. Uh,
Oh,
so
okay.
don't expect to hear from me about this game for at least another year. um, because we will not finish it in
Right.
any soon amount of time. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. It'll be just a self-paced playthrough.
Yep.
There we go.
So
So, yep.
we're gonna have a good time with it. I'm looking forward to getting farther in that. We just got like destroyed by a random NPC party, so that was
Oh
fun.
no.
Um, I mean, in fairness, we hadn't like leveled up, so because you have to like you
Mhm.
don't have to. It's not like exactly manual leveling up, but it's like you have to like trigger the level up basically. So
Right.
uh,
Oh, interesting.
we just hadn't done that yet, so our stats were kind of low for the fight. But yeah, so yeah, don't expect to hear from me on that game anytime soon. And yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm looking forward to it.
As at least for me, was stuff that I'm kind of going through right now is I am going through God of War. Valhalla,
Yeah.
and I'm at the end of it, so I will
Nice.
be by the next recording, I should have it finished.
Cool.
I definitely have
Yeah.
enough to review it, that's for sure, but
Yeah.
I would like to finish it before I give my full thoughts on it.
Nice.
But yeah,
Yeah.
pretty we we had a pretty good show today, I think.
Yeah.
It was pretty lengthy, but I think
Yeah.
we covered a lot. It was good to be back. Um,
I'm definitely like
yeah.
kind of taking it slow before February.
Mm,
um,
I get it.
I'm like,
It's a big undertaking for you. I get it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm like, okay, I can
Well, it will be
afford
for me
to.
too, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess like the question I have, the challenge that is presented to you is beat God of War
Hmm.
DLC, then beat Near before
Yep.
7R comes out.
Before Final Fantasy. I think it's possible. I think I can. I
It's
really do
doable.
feel
Yeah,
like I
it's a
can.
if you
Especially
play.
saying,
How long did it
especially
take you
saying I'm
to?
like one playthrough of God of War be done.
Yeah, yeah, like you don't have that long left on God of War. Yeah, I guess I would say like
Mm,
if you manage to put round about 6 hours a week into
mhm.
Near by the time Final Fantasy comes out, I think you should. I think you should have
Yeah.
that clocked. I think that's
Yeah, I
and
think
maybe
so.
even more than that. I don't know how much you're able to play these days, but yeah,
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 I'm not sure. But I think I
we'll
can
see.
at least
We'll
do
see.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see.
Well, and
But
again, I can
yeah,
tell you how to minimize your the the repetitivity of that game.
right. Yeah, and that's fair. Yeah, I can feel that a little bit, but yeah. Um, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you all for listening. I almost said watching, but listening. Uh, yeah, it was a really great podcast, and you know, we're sorry that we like that.